this interview series. My name is Antje Fiedler and I'm an associate editor of the Journal of Small Business Management. I have the great pleasure to talk with Professor Alfredo De Massis about his research on the corporate social responsibility in family firms. The research had been conducted by him together with his colleagues Professor Mariani and Dr. Al-Sultan. Alfredo De Massis is a professor of entrepreneurship and family business at the Free University of Bolzano in Italy, where he directs the Center of Family Business. He's also a professor at IMD Business School in Switzerland and a professor at Lancaster University Management School in the UK. Their paper, Corporate Social Responsibility in Family Firms, a Systematic Literature Review, has been published online in August 2021 in the Journal of Small Business Management. Welcome, Alfredo.
Thank you, and thank you, Antje, and thank you very much to JSBM overall for inviting me here to share with you, some insights in relation to my CSR research.
It's so great you can join us today. My first question would be where the idea for the paper came from.
Well, that's a very good question, because I've always been very much fascinated by social topics in relation to family enterprises. And the reason is because if you look at the real world, the world of businesses, you can see that very often family businesses vary in their behavior. As on the one hand, you have an extreme, which is, those family firms who are very good at behaving in a socially responsible way, but at the same time you have other enterprises that are still very much influenced by families that can be instead very, very bad when it comes to CSR. And so my interest in this broader area of CSR in family firms happened because I wanted to know more about corporate social responsibility issues in this particular type of business organization, which, as many of us know, is the most ubiquitous one in any world economy. So that's how it started. And of course, the pandemic, played also a role, because I think that one of the, things brought about by this pandemic is the fact that, society-centered goals have become more and more present and manifested in the agenda of business leaders, including especially family business leaders.
Thank you. That is so true. So what is the most important theoretical insight from your research?
Well, this is, a research where, as you correctly said, is a systematic literature review, and we basically combined, a systematic literature review on this topic with some, bibliographic analysis, let's put that way. And the overall goal of this research was to kind of taking stock of what we know, understanding well the state of the art, and moving toward the future, which means kind of opening up a sort of future research agenda for further developing insights on this topic. Now, what were the main theoretical implications? Well, we moved from the fact that as we started reading and reviewing the literature on this topic, we found that the literature was characterized by a number of issues in terms of, there were many fragmented pieces, so there was a lot of fragmentation in the pieces. And most importantly, while there were many studies, for instance, that tried to understand how family involvement might affect CSR and or how CSR, activities might affect family firm performance, we didn't have a very precise understanding of what are the drivers of, of CSR adoption in the context of family firms, and what are the outcomes once you adopt CSR. And so we wanted to try to shed light on these aspects. And I think that one of the most important theoretical implications of our literature review is by bringing to light the fact that despite there is a quite developed literature these days, I think that the knowledge about CSR in family firms can still be considered in its infancy when it comes, to the driver and outcomes. What is probably kind of particularly interesting could be that, we found out that there are 3 established topical areas that are informing, developing in the fields at the intersection of family firms and CSR. And these 3 topical areas are family involvement, corporate governance, and sustainability. So these were, the main topics that emerged more recurrently in our review. Moreover, there were other topics like social-emotional wealth, ethics and religion, and entrepreneurial orientation that are, further topics for examination. And of course, especially most recent studies started to cover more than one topic, which was another finding. But still, we are still in a stage where the knowledge that we have is not so well refined. And indeed, in our review, our analysis of the literature allowed us to develop a framework, which is a framework that somehow, systematizes the drivers of CSR adoption, the practices, processes, and strategies related to CSR, and the outcomes that arise from such practices.
Very interesting and fascinating. So there's plenty of opportunity for future research, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah, fantastic. And as a final question, what are the key takeaways for policymakers and practitioners?
Well, that's a very good question, and I thank you very much for this, because just a few days ago, I was attending as a panelist the European Union's SMEs Assembly 2022, which is, an assembly, a conference that the European Union the Commission organizes every year to discuss about sustainability issues in the context of SMEs. And many of the debates that we faced were about CSR in family firms. So I can tell you that CSR is really very much on the agenda, CSR and sustainability more broadly, on the agenda of policymakers. And I think that, one of the things that can be useful from our paper, from our analysis, is on the one hand the fact that what we bring to light with this review in terms of descriptive aspects in relation to what are the study about, what are the main topics, what are the key actors, what are the connections. I think that all these informations can give a precise understanding that can be useful for policymakers, to where is the field at the current point. And I think that at the current point, we are in a point where we speak more than we know about this topic. So many companies and many studies are also aiming to understand how a business, can pursue sustainability, corporate social responsibility goals, corporate social responsibility motivations, activities, but a few more are instead, considering, for instance, how we can make or create the ideal conditions for a family business to, to behave well in terms of corporate social responsibility. So what I'm trying to say is that we are in a stage where probably we are paying more attention to the willingness side of corporate social responsibility than to the ability side. And I think that, this review can be useful in order to build up awareness in the political sphere around these aspects. I also think that the framework that arises from this review, which is a framework with drivers, sustainability, corporate social responsibility practices and outcomes, can also be useful because it offers some initial insights into what are the distinctive drivers and the distinctive attributes, the distinctive outcomes, associated with corporate social responsibility. And this is important because oftentimes, we know that it happened that family firms' distinctive aspects have been neglected. And we tried, policymakers tried to provide measures, supporting initiatives, targeting family firms without really considering what's unique about their behavior. So I think that after reading our paper, they can learn what's unique, what's distinctive, and this can again be something quite important for practice. Of course, even the research agenda part that is reported in our article, where we provide some selected opportunities for future research at the intersection of CSR and family firms, can still, I believe, be important for policymakers, because it could also inspire practitioners and policymakers to understand what type of projects could be, research projects could be incentivized in the future to advance knowledge in a field where, as I said, there has been for sure a huge, impressive development, as we show even with our number in the bibliometric part of our article, but where I have no doubt that we are only starting to scratch, the tip of the iceberg.
Thank you so much for this really interesting and detailed answer. As we come to an end of our meeting, I would like to ask you if you have maybe any further comments or thoughts that you would like to share with the community of the Journal of Small Business Management.
Thank you. Well, I think that, we are in an era where there is a huge need of rigorous knowledge about small businesses. So I think the journals like the Journal of Small Business Management have a very important, given their focus, have a very important mission, because we are in a particular chrono context, characterized by a situation, circumstances where SMEs are struggling, and we know that they typically struggle more than other types of organizations. For instance, I just mentioned the poly crisis, this, new context where we were in a pandemic, then we had, the invasion of Ukraine by Russia, then we had the energy price crisis, let's call it that way. Now we have the inflation, then we have, the labor and talent shortage and the issues associated with that. So there is no doubt that the crises are becoming more and more consistent, often happening in parallel. So, and in this polycrisis environment, building rigorous knowledge about how to best manage small business will be fundamental, will be crucial. So my advice is, to anyone who is thinking about contributing to this field, to really be aware that it's the right timing for being here and for putting serious effort here. And of course, to the journal, I was very impressed to see that the journal has been achieving so much. And I think that, with the rigor that is showing, I have no doubt that there will be even a further growth of the journal in the near future. So I was also very happy to publish there again after some years.
Thank you so much for these kind words and for this really inspiring talk. I feel really privileged you took the time to talk to me today. For our readers who I'm sure want to now learn more about this interesting research, the full version of the paper is available at the Taylor and Francis website of the Journal of Small Business Management. And the paper is open access, so it's free for everyone who's interested in the area. So thank you so much again, Alfredo, for taking the time to talk to me today.
Thank you very much, Antje. Thank you, and thanks to anyone who will be, spending, investing, or wasting a few minutes of their time watching this video. Thank you very much.